Okay, week number 7. I want to remind you that it is this week that the summary paper is due. So if you have not already finished that and turned that in, please do that as soon as possible. Today we'll be looking at chapters 11 and 12, looking at the individual and Christian missions, global missions, and then the local church. Here we go. Just a few opening statements regarding the individual and the individual Christian and global missions. There's the big buzz. We see it very often on social media. All Christians are missionaries. And to some extent that is true, but since we have defined our terms previously in the course, I would like to propose to you that all Christians are not missionaries, that we have the missionary call, specifically the missionary call that we have talked about. What we do know is this: all Christ followers are called to make disciples. All Christ followers are called to make disciples. No matter where we are, we're called to make disciples. We know that some are called specifically to serve as missionaries in an international or cross-cultural setting and location. So they're set apart to go. All right, all are supposed to be making disciples, but some are specifically called and set apart to go to the nations cross-culturally, and those would be missionaries. So we need to distinguish between that. And again, The Missionary Call by David Sills is a fantastic book to help walk a believer through discerning their role as a missionary call or not. Once you discern a call to missionary service, let me say, personal experience, the adventure only then begins, okay? Although there is great adventure in discerning the call. I went through that myself. Personally, was called to missions while serving on a short-term mission trip in Europe. At the same time, things were happening back home in my job at a bank that just wasn't right. And so there was an adventure there in discerning the call of God and then surrendering to that call. And then, so there's an adventure that, but the adventure only begins after you discern and surrender to that call. Once the call is discerned, there's great excitement and peace on the one hand, because you have clarity finally after struggling through that, but yet there's still a lot of confusion and chaos. So many questions come up then, right? And maybe some of you have already been through that. Questions like where? Well, I know I'm called now, but where am I called to? Where am I going to go? What country I go to? What people group do I go to? Do I have to learn another language? You just begin to go, with whom? Who am I going to serve with? Is there an agency I need to serve with? Should I go through my local church and raise money, raise support? When? Is it a call to go now, or is it a call to go later? Is there preparation that needs to be done before? So peace and excitement on the one hand, a lot of questions and confusion and chaos on the other. So there's challenges, the challenges of knowing and going. Once you discern the call, once you know the call, guard your heart. After you have surrendered to mission, surrendered to ministry, surrendered to any call to serve the Lord like that, guard your heart. Go back to that moment of call and stand there and guard your heart, because the enemy is trying to confuse you, trying to get you to forget that call or despise that call or maybe rediscern that call, anything to keep you from fulfilling God's call on your life. Guard your heart. Stay in the Word. Stay in prayer. Stay in accountability with others that are walking through the process with you. Know your agency options, agencies, and there's a lot of mission agencies out there. If you're going to go through an agency, if you're in a particular denomination, your denomination might have an agency or a process for sending missionaries. Or will your local church be your agency? And then in just a minute, we're going to talk more about the local church and the role in missions. Then there is you work your way through the process of discerning your call, knowing that call, making decisions on where to go, who to serve with, and then comes the challenge of leaving. My personal experience, like I said, felt that call, went through a time of surrender, just searching and surrender, and then months of discerning a call, and I ended up going through the journeyman program of the International Mission Board. That took a few months, And then came the time to leave. And there are great challenges in the leaving and cleaving process. And there's actually a metaphor here that's a lot like marriage. So if you're married or have heard about marriage, anything about it, and we're told in Genesis that the woman, the man and woman will leave their families and cleave together. Okay, a healthy marriage, the husband and the wife both have left their parents. They've left their family of birth. Now, it's not that ostracized, it's not cut off, it's just simply emotionally there is a leaving there, and a new family is being formed. And in order for that new family to form and to be healthy, both the husband and wife must leave the emotional comfort and security of home, of birth family. Okay? And so it's like marriage. The missionary has to leave. We have to leave our culture. There has to be a mental, a spiritual, emotional leaving where we stick that marker in the ground. I am leaving and I am going. And I can remember getting on the plane. I remember walking down the ramp to get on the plane. This was back during the days where family could come right up to the airplane gate with you and see you off, and just walking down that ramp. And my dad hugged me and he said, "Don't look back, don't look back." And that was leaving. Don't look back, leave, go. That's what you're called to do. I was going to Southeast Asia. I was going to Singapore to serve for the first 2 years, and I had a flight from Los Angeles to Taipei, Taiwan, and then from Taipei on into Singapore. And I can remember I got off the plane in Taipei, exited out the gate, was walking by the next gate, and the flight on the next gate was a flight right back to Los Angeles. And I stopped. I wanted to get right back on the plane and go, but I had left. I'd made that decision to leave, and I had to keep going. And then cleaving. Cleaving is after you've let go of your home culture, you're coming in now to grab hold of. Leaving and now cleaving. You know, the greatest challenge facing missionaries today, and missionary supervisors will tell you, the greatest challenge they face today is technology. Because, and I think the authors mentioned this in the textbook, you say goodbye at the airport, you get to your next airport of transit, and you're on the phone with mom or dad, and FaceTime with mom and dad, and then you get to the next airport, and then, okay, call you when you land, and then you got Skype and FaceTime, and these are tremendous blessings. Please hear me say that. Love the technology, keeping in touch with home, but it can so much hinder the cleaving process. So we have to be very disciplined as missionaries to leave and to cleave, making our new culture our own culture. Okay, making our new culture our own culture. And then you're going to land. Then you land in the new country, and it's a new place, and it's a new culture, and we have the challenges of culture shock and adapting. Okay, and culture shock is defined on dictionary.com, looked it up. Culture shock is a state of bewilderment and distress experienced by someone who is suddenly exposed to a new, strange, foreign social and cultural environment. Okay, everybody faces this, and there are phases or stages of culture shock. And there's essentially 4 here, and they're called different things with different sociologists and missionary organizations. They'll call them different things, but the first one's the honeymoon stage, and you kind of land in this vacation mode. It's a new place, it's exciting, the lights and the glamour and the people, it's all exotic, and you're just kind of in this honey. And that's a marriage illustration as well. When you first get married, everything's great. Nothing can go wrong. Nothing goes wrong, right? Right. So same thing, you make it on the ground, you're in your new culture, and everything's great. And that might last generally maybe 1 month to 6 months of honeymoon stage. And it's different for everybody. Culture shock is different for everybody. Then there comes this rejection stage. And it sets in from about 6 to 18 months. And characteristics of this stage are frustration, anger, critical. Why do they do things this way? If they did it our way, it'd be better. And a fruit, so to speak, of the rejection stage. You can identify a missionary in rejection stage because of the criticism of their new culture. But staying the course, perseverance, again, going back to that moment of call, knowing that you're where you're supposed to be, you will emerge out of the rejection stage into this emergent stage. And this is 18 plus months, 2 years, this is happening. So you have to stay the course. You will come out of those critical, gloomy days of the rejection stage, and you'll emerge out of that, and you'll begin to appreciate the new culture, appreciate the language and the way they do things, and it is now becoming your culture. And the further you get into the culture and stay years, it becomes your culture. You begin to take on the worldview and the way of thinking of that culture. Then it's time to return home for furlough, retirement, maybe something with the family issues causes you to have to come back home. And you will experience what's called reverse culture shock or re-entry shock. And this is crazy. This is craziness. I'm speaking as a missionary myself. You've been overseas a while. You're in culture. You become a part of the new culture. Now you come back to your home culture, and now missionaries are known for this. You become very judgmental and critical of your home culture, and this takes place a lot in the context of the local church. Become very critical of the way American churches do things. Big buildings, big mortgages, big money. Look at all this waste. If the church just spent this money on church planting and new churches and missions, wow, this world would be saved. And just coming in and wondering, wow, why do Americans do it this way? And a part of this too is the fact, and please realize this, it will come. When you left to go overseas and you come back, people got on with their lives. Your family got on with their lives. Your friends got on with their lives. People got married. People had children. People maybe got divorced. Things happened. They weren't just waiting for you to get home. Sitting around for years waiting for you to get home. They're glad to see you, but they went on with their life, and you have to fit back into the systems of your culture, your family. Okay, and it is very, very difficult. Language learning is key in the missionary process. Language learning is more than memorizing vocabulary. I think we talked about that 2 sessions ago. You will make mistakes and be laughed at. Okay, the best way to learn a language is to use what you are learning. Be willing to make mistakes. You will make mistakes, and you will be laughed at. For example, we were learning the Burmese language, and we were serving in Myanmar, and we had a gardener, a security guard named Zaya So, and we had just bought a car. Now, it was a new car to us, but this car was like 15, 16 years old, and so I was trying to talk to him about the car, and I was using the word old, but I was using the wrong word old. There's a word for old for animate objects, people, animals, and then there's a word for old for inanimate objects, okay? And I was using the animate objects, and he was confused and just started laughing at me as if, why would you say the car has life and gets old? You're going to make mistakes. Many more language blunders, I could tell, but you will make mistakes. Language learning is an entry into cultural learning. You learn culture as you learn language. So again, language is more than just memorizing vocabulary. You're learning culture as well. Again, knowing that communication is more than verbal. So there's a quick summary of that chapter. Let's move into chapter 12, the local church on mission. While all Christ followers have a place in global missions, making disciples, some are called out as missionaries, the New Testament authority in missions belongs to the local church, not the mission agency, not the missionary. The New Testament authority belongs to the local church. Now, the missionary has a biblical authority, but it fits under the authority of the local church sending, or even the local church receiving in some cases. And I believe we're facing days, even in my own organization, of downsizing and having to reorganize and rework the way we do missions as an agency. And I don't think it's a bad thing. I think this is a time that the local church is and must reclaim her missions authority. So if you're a pastor, church worker locally in the States just trying to gain understanding through this course of global missions, I challenge you, reclaim the authority. The local church has the authority in the missions endeavor. 6 keys to thinking globally in the local church is biblical understanding. Oh, how I wish we had time. It's a whole other course to understand the mission, the missions strand, the missions story from Genesis to Revelation. Having a biblical understanding of God's mission and our part in that mission. Having a global vision, seeing beyond our local context, in some cases seeing beyond the walls of the local church we're in and looking globally. And that can mean looking around the world globally, or looking across the street at the Internationals living across the street from us now, but having a global worldview, a global vision, and understanding missiological principles. And I hope that this course has pastors and church leaders who want to understand missiological principles to apply in the local church context and in training. And certainly we as missionaries must become missiologists as well. We're studying. Pray, at the bare minimum. And it's not even that this is the basic thing, but prayer, praying for the nations. There are websites, Joshua Project, imb.org, and many more, that will give daily prayer updates, daily prayer prompts for people groups of the world. But start praying for the peoples of the world. Start praying specifically for peoples in your community, people groups in your community, but be in prayer. Connect yourself to missions. You personally connect yourself to missions, going on a mission trip, taking the youth on mission, and then connecting the church to missions. So you're going and connecting yourself personally, and you're taking people with you and leading the church on mission. But the key is just being connected to it. That begins with a praying for missions, and then connecting others through that. Perhaps one of the things we need to look at moving into the future of missions, now that the local church is reclaiming her authority in missions and the agency's roles are being redefined, what is the role of short-term missions, of STM? Short-term missions are good. Unfortunately, a lot of supposed short-term missions of contemporary days is actually like a holiday. It's a holiday mission trip, and we need to learn as a church, and this will be a whole other course, a whole other session, talking about how the church can do short-term missions well. And in summary, it's just saying that any short-term mission endeavors by the church internationally must be connected to a more comprehensive strategy, unreached people group strategy, city strategy. The local church going to serve must submit to the authority there of the missionary on the field and the strategy that they already have going, or the local church on the field if you're working with a local church, but submitting to what they are doing and not coming in with our own agenda. Short-term missions has been done well, can be done well, but as we move into the future, must be done well. I wish we could keep talking and tease that out more. Perhaps we can online as you post to the board and we have our discussion time, we can hit more of this. Again, keep reading, keep studying. If you have any questions, you can email me or hit the discussion board and I will respond. We can do that. Okay, we are heading into the final times where papers are due. The summary paper and the reflection paper are due for you. So please get those in as soon as possible. Thank you and see you next week.